So yes, we're all here today to talk about many great Switch-related things. And this week, the big news is that Nintendo Direct that dropped yesterday. This one is sort of the last hurrah of the original Switch, a chance for Nintendo to talk about all the things still coming to the original Switch, which they're not abandoning yet, before they get into Switch 2 territory. There were a lot of games shown, including one that at least I'm very excited about. I know Oliver is as well. It's Metroid Prime 4. Uh, After watching the trailer, though, even though it was pretty clear to us, I think, there were a lot of questions from both the audience and other viewers as were we looking at the Switch 2 version of Metroid Prime 4? Oliver, were we looking at the Switch 2 version of Metroid Prime 4?
That's a good question. That's a good question. So I actually think that there's some interesting evidence in this trailer, just in terms of the way the game is constructed, in terms of the way that it appears, that can kind of give you some hints as to whether it's Switch 2 or not here. So like, if you look at the kind of general content here, we're looking at a lot of baked lighting, baked shadows. We're looking at smaller playable areas that feel kind of segmented. And ultimately, like what we're seeing here looks pretty similar to a 2023 game that we know runs on Switch 1 because it shipped on Switch 1, which is Metroid Prime Remastered. And
Yep.
I think one thing that really makes both these games look quite good is the lighting quality, like the very high quality pre-calculated lighting. That if indirect diffuse lighting is quite high quality, and the materials look pretty good for a Switch game, I would say here as well. But also, when you go back to that Metroid Prime Remastered, that first game, a lot of the same compromises that were present in that game are still kind of present here. Like, for instance, the player weapon when you're blasting away, there's no like dynamic lighting from the player weapon. There's no big light show like we saw in prior Metroid Prime games, some earlier Metroid Prime games. That is a compromise that's inherent to both titles here. And that obviously shipped on Switch 1. The environments are, again, a little bit on the smaller side, kind of static looking potentially as well. In terms of the basic metrics, there are some elements to this that are very positive, I would say, like it is a 60 FPS trailer. But again, that's the same as Metroid Prime Remastered, which was shipped on Switch 1. And in terms of the image quality, I think the game does not have like any real anti-aliasing treatment, or if there is anti-aliasing treatment, it's a pretty mild form of maybe post-process anti-aliasing possibly, but it seems like a pretty jagged, kind of raw looking game. Not that that's a bad thing necessarily, but that's how it appears. And I did some pixel counts here, and resolutions hold at about 900p or so in the shots I tested, which is again, very similar to Metroid Prime
Yep.
Remastered. So is it Switch 2? I would doubt it very much here. It's similar in scope and graphical appearance and visual features to a game we already have on Switch. There's no signs of like in particular Switch 2 features like DLSS or TAA or high-res rendering. There's no big new lighting effects or upgraded lighting or anything like that that necessarily seems like it would come from a Switch 2 upgrade here. But I think overall, the visual appearance of this trailer is like firmly in Switch 1 territory. And if it was Switch 2, I would be pretty, I'd be pretty shocked.
Hmm.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that, Oliver. And I think the key here, though, is that we shouldn't people that look at this and are like, wait, what is this? The key is that the game still looks amazing, right? Like I'm going to say this is going to stand up as one of the best looking things that ever shipped on Switch. It made us actually think about some of the prior releases on older consoles. Like when you look back at something like Halo 4
Yeah,
or like,
really.
The Last of Us, Uncharted 3 on PS3, those games that really pushed the limits of what you thought was possible on there. I think having a game with this level of visual quality running at 60 FPS in an actual decent resolution, which I would say 900p ish is quite decent for the Switch for a 60 FPS game. That's very, very impressive. And, Retro's art design is really shining through here. And I'm liking what I'm seeing in terms of the game progression, where it does seem to sort of build upon the formula of Metroid Prime. They haven't done anything radically different, but I don't think fans actually wanted something radically different. Like, no, they haven't gone open world, for instance. At least we don't think so. That would not be great. I don't
Hmm.
think. It's open world in the Metroid way, is what I presume here, where it's a large interconnected map with very nice dense geometry to explore, some beautiful effects work, lots of nice post-processing effects in there, just to give it that nice look. But I guess the question is then, will this launch on Switch too? And if I had to guess, I would say almost certainly. This has become a bit of a tradition for Nintendo at this point. It's not officially announced, mind you, but they love to release games right around the launch of a new console that ship on their prior generation console, games that have been announced prior for them, and then also an updated version. that I think the big one that started with was Twilight Princess back on the Wii and the GameCube. And then, of course, more recently there was Breath of the Wild.
Hmm.
So I'm not sure that Metroid has as much of a draw as Zelda, unfortunately, even though I feel it should.
Yeah.
But I think we will probably see this on Switch too. And because of the strong art direction and visual design, I don't think they would necessarily need to do too much to it other than massively improve image quality, basically.
Yeah.
I also wonder if, presuming that, say, the Switch 2 does support 120 frames per second output, would be interesting to see them embrace something like that as well, right? Which seems very feasible for a game designed for the original Switch. And man, I'm excited to play a new Metroid Prime game. I know you've played the originals a lot, Oliver.
Yeah.
And I think Metroid Prime, I'd say, is one of my favorite games ever made. I really genuinely think it's a brilliant, brilliant piece of gaming action there. Beautiful game. Alex, I'm curious though, have you ever actually sat down and played through Metroid Prime? And whether yes or no, I'm curious about your thoughts on this.
I've played it through an emulator.
Oh, okay.
I've played through Metroid Prime with an emulator. And I've also played Metroid Prime Hunters for the DS, which I thought was really cool.
Well.
I thought it was cool.
It is different, yeah.
For the time period. It also, it doesn't have like lock-on, the Z lock-on, which I thought was cool. I'm curious to see like whether or not like if they bring this to Switch 2, yeah, image quality being better is nice. Probably be the biggest thing I would update from here. I actually think the texture work is surprisingly good for a Switch title. Just like looking around, like the one part when Samus is in the like, it almost looks like a flood cavern from like Halo 4. The art design here is so much like Halo 4, it's ridiculous.
I know.
Not what's the name of the Kevin Scott? What's the name of the Doom 3 tech artist? I forget his name, but it reminds me a little bit. Kevin Cloud, sorry. A little bit reminiscent of some of that stuff, like with the environmental design that was also in Halo 4. But when she's in there, you like look at like the grotesque, organic, like viney stuff on the wall. It's actually really pretty high res for a Switch game. Yep. I think I would like to see maybe just like better image quality, better texture filtering, and if they could, spice it up a little bit. Have like one section where there's like water on the ground. The Switch 2 can do ray tracing. Why not? Wouldn't that be cool? That'd be crazy. Yeah. I'm also curious whether or not if they have the little mouse implement there that Switch 2 has, whether or not they would integrate that into the game at all. I don't know. We've only seen a touch of the single player here. Is it only a single player game? Is there going to be some co-op element to it?
I doubt that, knowing Metroid's history. But you saying that brings me back to when they announced multiplayer for Metroid Prime 2 and everybody was just like, really?
I'm fine with co-op in games. I think that's cool.
They put split screen deathmatch in it though.
Deathmatch is cool. I mean, how many games actually support deathmatch these days? I'd be cool.
You know what? From a 2025 perspective, I'm on board again. It's time to revisit Metroid Prime 2's deathmatch.
Let's do it. I'll play it with you. High res shadows. I wouldn't mind that. There's a couple of some real time shadows in here. They're a little bit low res. That's about it. But other than that, I think this was the best looking game. I would say it was also like the props, other than a couple of 2D titles, it was the best performing game we saw in the Switch.
Yeah.
Super smooth.
This ran super smooth. John, when you tested the original, the remake that was made by Retro, that was also generally a pretty super smooth game. And this looks to be much the same.
I think it was virtually perfect, if I recall. Prime remastered.
Yeah.
It was basically completely locked in my testing.
Oh, yeah.
So I mean, that's the thing, is just Retro Studios is really well known for hitting those targets.
Sorry.
Yeah. Going back to, Metroid Prime 1, 2, 3, all of those games, the Donkey Kong games, like they've always hit their frame rate targets and they always go for 60. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that continues here because, that wasn't always the case with games we saw ship on Switch from first party. So yeah, Metroid Prime 4, big game, very exciting. I really want to see that on Switch 2 as well.